Welcome to the GCN Tech Show.
This week, we're on tour in Menton in southern France. And, well, Alex isn't here because he's recovering from a heroic ride over at Unbound. But fear not, because we've got absolutely loads. We've got a load of cool Unbound gravel tech that's emerged as well. And, well, our main talking point.
Yeah, our main talking point is, do we need wet weather tyres? You look like you're recovering from something as well, mate. What's that?
Waking up 5 minutes ago.
It's tough life, isn't it? It's 10:30.
No, it's not. It's like 7 o'clock in the morning, which is 6 o'clock back home. So this week, we're discussing wet weather tyres because in motorsport, Formula One, MotoGP, wet weather tyres are a thing. However, they're not in road cycling. And watching this year's Giro d'Italia, there was some, well, horrendous wet weather. And we saw some terrible crashes. For example, Josh Tarling just slid out on an innocuous roundabout and then suffered some really bad injuries as a result.
Yeah, I mean, undoubtedly one of the most perilous aspects of road racing is doing it in wet conditions, isn't it? And with an increased focus on rider safety at the moment, it does make you wonder why this hasn't been addressed yet.
Yeah. I think, the first thing to understand is, because they are different, but the first thing to understand is, you know, what wet weather tyres actually sort of are and what they actually do in the context of motorsport. So firstly, they have much bigger tread patterns on them, and the purpose of the tread patterns is twofold. The first thing is that those tread patterns are able to disperse large volumes of water, and this is to help the cars or motorbikes not aquaplane. This isn't a problem for cyclists because we don't go at the speeds that would ever allow us to aquaplane, believe it or not.
I read once that a cyclist on a road racing tyre would have to go over 100 miles an hour to aquaplane.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts.
Yeah. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah. And then, and the other thing is that road bike tyres are much narrower. The surface area is much less, so that water dispersion is going to be much less. The other point of a tread is to give mechanical grip, which you see on, well, we're used to seeing that on off-road tyres, the knobbly bits that then can sort of grab on to the surface a bit more.
I like that. Got a nice mental picture of my tyre tread grabbing onto gravel. The next thing is rubber compound, isn't it? So a harder rubber compound can often give less rolling resistance. And so when a tyre manufacturer is choosing their optimal rubber compound, that's the balance they have to strike, isn't it? You want a tyre that performs super well in rolling resistance tests, but that also has enough grip to allow you to go around corners.
It's a balance.
Exactly, but in wet weather, it requires a different type of rubber compound again, doesn't it?
Yeah, you just go softer, I think, so that then you've maybe got a bit more rolling resistance, but a bit more grip.
But temperature's a thing too, right, when it comes to rubber compound. And if you're racing in wet conditions, it's likely to be a cooler road that you're riding on than if you're potentially doing the Giro d'Italia in hot conditions, right?
Yeah, and, well, the actual water, surface water, will actually have a cooling effect as well. Like, water's an incredible coolant. That's why they use it in nuclear reactors. Another thing that they do on wet weather tyres, and I'm not sure if this is something that you could do on bike tyres, but on, you know, Formula One tyres, for example, they have a different construction, and the sidewall stiffness is different. And so what that means is that the tyre still has like low rolling resistance and conforms and holds its shape in a straight line. The moment you turn, the sidewall of the tyre can deform and then give you a bigger contact patch and give you more grip in turn.
No way.
Yeah, which is quite a cool idea. But I mean, while I don't know if that's a thing that you could do on a road bike tyre, what you could simply do to increase the contact patch is just run a wider tyre.
Yeah. So we were talking about this earlier, and I have a feeling that the HTC team used to have wet weather tyre setups, and part of it was that they ran bigger tyres in the wet. So I'm pretty sure we're going back.
That would have been like they were running 25s instead of 21s.
Yeah, literally. Well, yeah, 25 instead of 23.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it really is interesting, actually, think about it, isn't it? I was thinking that a wet weather tyre already existed. So our tyre partner Pirelli have the P04S, don't they? But that's not strictly speaking a wet weather tyre. It's more of a winter tyre that's optimised for cold conditions, isn't it?
Yeah, and that is a tyre that I'm pretty sure does have better static wet load grip. Like it would grip better in the wet, but it's not, like you say, it's not specifically designed as a performance wet weather racing tyre. And I think that's the difference here. You know, a lot of tyre brands as well have winter tyres, which probably will perform better in the wet, but they are also much sort of heavier duty, but typically weigh a lot more, and they have more puncture protection, and they are designed as a four-season tyre or a winter tyre, not a performance race product.
No, Tadej Pogacar could not win the Tour de France if he was using a heavy winter tyre.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah, because the rolling resistance is just so much more on these tyres typically compared to the performance tyres. And that's the difference. You know, I think when you look at motorsport, you know, Formula One, MotoGP, those wet weather tyres they use, that's not a commercially available product. It's not like...
You haven't got them on your F1 car?
No, but you don't drive your car and go, it's raining today, switch to the wets. You know, you might put winters on your car, and I think that's why they don't exist in cycling. But at the top end of the sport, there's plenty of things that pro riders use that, you know, we don't need to use, you know what I mean? Like I think there's space for that in the top end of the sport.
Well, I think there's a lot of like amateur road cyclists who would potentially look at a wet weather tyre setup.
If they were racing in the wet,
even if you were doing like, let's say you're going out for a Grand Fondo, you're going to do the Maratona in the Dolomites, and it's a wet day, you think, oh man, I've got to ride down 3 treacherous Dolomite descents. I wouldn't mind a little bit more safety and a little bit more grip. So maybe there is actually... You know, I wouldn't be swapping out tubeless tyres in the morning of the Maratona, but I would definitely stick a different set of tyres on with inner tubes in.
Or if you just live in England.
All the time.
Just use them all the time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, interesting, isn't it? Going back to the pro racing thing, I suppose because margins are so tight on these things, pro teams will need to weigh up whether or not there is a greater benefit in being able to stay upright going around corners versus the rolling resistance, unless the UCI, as part of their rider safety package, step in and mandate that all teams would need to use a certain tyre. Would need, like, all... where was I? So the UCI would need to step in, wouldn't they, and mandate that all teams need to use a wet weather tyre on certain days?
I think they... Well, yes and no. I think it would be... On the one hand, you could say, right, today is a wet day, it's going to be a wet day, and for rider safety, everyone has to use a wet weather tyre that has a much higher, like, static grip wet load, or every team has to have a tyre that they can be called to use upon that meets a minimum level of, like, static wet grip. I can't give an exact number on the exact static wet grip it should be because I'm not an expert on that, but I know that is a measure of grip that they use.
I think that number would be meaningless to 99.99% of the audience as well.
but you could also not maybe have that because in say Formula One, they don't go, you have to use your wet tyres. It's just when it is wet, they make such a difference that if you're not on them, you lose. You know, you see it in, like, the difference they make is just night and day.
Team mechanics won't be thanking us for this.
No.
If you imagine how many pairs of wheels they have to have ready for every stage
Tubeless.
Start. Yeah. Yes. And if you're running, so let's say you've got 18 bikes, then you've got 16 spare bikes plus the spare wheels, that's a lot of...
If the forecast suddenly changes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so yeah, logistically, there is a bit of a thing. But yeah, I do wonder as well whether if everyone did end up on wet weather tyres, you still end up in the same position, right? Which is it's a level playing field and you've got riders going around corners that they were doing at 20k an hour because it was so slippy and then doing it at 30k an hour.
Yeah.
But then still potentially
it's a fair point.
On a fine line.
Yeah, it's a fair point because this is the point that a lot of the older riders, you know, who rode in the 80s.
What are you trying to say?
No, not you. I mean, like, I've spoken to like Sean Kelly about this and Pippi York about this, and you know, about this sort of disc brake, rim brake thing, and you know, safety. And they always say yes, like we were right on the limit back then. It's just the limit was like lower. Whereas now, because better tyres, better brakes, they ride faster, but they still ride up to the limit of what their equipment allows them to do. And so, yes, I think in some instances it would mean that riders do still push up to the limit. But you do see a lot of, my counter-argument is that you see a lot of crashes where riders aren't even pushing. Like the Josh Tarling crash that took him out of the Giro. There's a lot of crashes where riders just slip and they weren't even riding hard at that point.
Well, that begs the question then, doesn't it, whether a wet weather tyre would help, because on a motor racing circuit, it's a completely uniform surface, isn't it? Whereas you go around a corner in the Giro d'Italia, particularly in like an urban time trial, and you might be on nice tarmac, and then you go across a couple of drain covers, which nothing's going to grip in the wet.
Or an oil patch.
Or an oil patch, or like some white lines, like a zebra crossing. Like, it is treacherous, and the level of grip can vary so much in such a short space of time.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's a fair point. What I would say to you, though, is that when you were racing, if I'd come along and I'd said, right, you can have these wet weather tyres for when it's wet, right? And they're not going to save you against everything, but 50% of the time you fall off and hurt yourself, I'm going to stop that. Would you take it?
Them.
There you go.
Yeah, 100%.
There you go. But I think, let us know. Let us know your comments and let us know your thoughts on this, because I think it's quite an interesting topic, and hopefully you do as well. I think the other interesting point just to raise is that currently in Formula One and MotoGP, they don't have multiple tyre sponsors. It's just Pirelli, and so could cycling go like that? That's an interesting proposition, right?
It is an interesting proposition.
It's like everyone's on the wets today. Yeah. There you go.
All right, let us know in the comments.
Hot tech now, and we're going to discuss Unbound gravel tech, because there was absolutely loads, and, Alex is recovering from Unbound, but he did blooming amazing.
He did. We're not going to give his results now, because that would spoil the video that is coming soon to GCN. But we're pretty proud of him here at GCN.
Yeah,
the GCN WhatsApp group was on fire on Saturday as we were staying tuned to his updates.
We're super proud of him. I think what we can say is he managed to go under 10 hours, which over that course is, that is rapid.
Super rapid, isn't it? Now, he made a video when he was out there on Hot Tech, which you have to go and see, because there's some wicked bikes, tweaks, bits of kit on there. New Specialized Diverge, which is looking good. Yeah. But also, there were some things, inevitably, that he didn't manage to get whilst he was out there. Yeah. So we've got them for you now.
Yeah, so the first intriguing thing is what appears to be new Campac. Now, we've recently seen a new Campagnolo group set at the Giro, a road one, but this appears to be a gravel one. And we're saying appears to be because it didn't have Campagnolo logos on the rear derailleur. But it was on Matteo De Marchi's bike, who, I'm just going to put this out there, he's also one of the few people that has ridden all 10 ascents of Monte Grappa in one ride.
Is that right?
Cool fact.
There you go, great facts.
Yeah, although he's a lot better than me. Especially at riding gravel. Anyway, so his bike had this, what we think is prototype Campagnolo gravel group set on it. And the intriguing thing is there was no obvious wire or cable going to the rear derailleur. So at the moment, their gravel group set is Eccar, but that's a cable-operated group set. This one, not. Appears to be wireless and electronic, because no cables. And also, there appears to be what looks like a sort of charging port, similar to what you have on the new, like a magnetic charging port, like what you have on the new Wahoo heart rate strap. So there's two little magnetic sort of dots where it looks like you can attach the cable underneath. But other details, we don't have them yet.
Cool. Campy have been busy, haven't they?
Yes.
Very busy indeed.
All of a sudden, loads is coming in.
Yeah. Ivar Slick, former winner of Unbound, was on a new Wilier gravel bike. Yeah. It looks amazing, but we have zero details on.
Yeah, stay tuned for that one.
Stay tuned, yes, indeed.
And another rider, Chase Walk, Alex said he spotted him using a disc wheel in the elite race on the rear of his bike.
There you go. The spirit of gravel is long since then. Although, actually, you could say maybe he was just harking back to the golden age of mountain bikes.
Yes.
One or two of you out there will remember the early 90s, John Tomac and his disc wheel.
Well, maybe Doddy did a video on it years ago on GCN Tech.
Of course he did,
great.
Yeah.
And actually built a replica version of that bike. It was amazing. But I think what I liked about it, though, that he was. I'm all for it that he was using the disc wheel. It was aero gains. The speeds they were going was over like 42 kilometres an hour for like the first half of the race. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, fair enough. It's like faster than some people time trial, and they would use a disc. But I liked that he was self-aware, like of what people would think about it, because he had a little sticker on his disc wheel saying like the spirit of gravel is dead or something. So it's like he's self-aware, you know?
Yeah, I like that. Cool. That's very cool.
Alex also told me he saw an absolutely incredible hike. Did you see this?
I didn't. No, what's this?
Right, so he said while he was in the race, he saw someone, I think, well, people can decide if this is a hack or a bodge, right? He saw someone that had a syringe zip-tied to their bike. In this syringe...
I'm not liking it already.
It was filled with lube, and there was a little tube going from the end of the syringe down to the chain on their bike.
Okay.
Also festooned with several zip ties on the bike. And he was dispensing lube through the syringe onto the chain throughout the race.
Oh, man.
What do you think of that?
I mean, like, real products existed, probably still exist, that like were automatic chain lubing devices where they mounted to your bike.
Scott Wilier bike chain lube dispenser.
Yeah, and obviously in these new enlightened times of chain waxing, it seems ridiculous to just drop more oil on a very dusty chain.
Yeah, but you could have just used a Silca chain with an endurance, a Silca wax with an endurance chip. You could have done, but Alex did. Even the lead men in the men's race were lubing each other. They were just riding along, lubing each other. Yeah, it was one of the sweetest things I've ever seen. Yeah. Just like lubing his own chain. Hey man, do you want some? It was like, I'll do you if you do me, and they were like just helping each other out. Yeah. Great. Yeah. So anyway, no, the spirit of gravel is alive and kicking. Yeah. And it's there in lubrication. Yeah, I'd say so. No, but it is one of those. Yeah. Like trying to keep your bike chain in happy over 200 dusty miles is a challenge, isn't it? But it does seem like wax is the saviour. It's nerdy and techie, and I love it. Right. The other cool thing that I spotted was, well, thanks to Josh Croxton at Cycling News posted this, and it was something on Keegan Swenson's bike. So Keegan Swenson, he didn't have the best race, actually. Unfortunately, he crashed 130 miles in, and I think he had some issues but after that. But his wheels had 2 valves on them. You've said you've seen this before. I have indeed. There you go. So... Well, this was different, though, to what I've seen before. Okay. So apparently Keegan Swenson was quite tight-lipped about it before the race, but his buddy Tobin Ortenblad just blabbed the whole thing. Blabbed it out, yeah. So what they did, apparently, is they drilled a second hole in their very nice preserved wheels and then fitted an inner tube inside that was deflated, which meant that if they were to get a puncture that they couldn't seal with sealant and they couldn't stick a plug in, then they could, in theory, just stick a CO2 cartridge in the deflated inner tube and woof, they're good to go again. So that kind of sounds like a hack when you first sort of say it, but then the more you think about it, I think it's not good. Really? Yeah. Right, so tubeless is blooming good. Like, I've taken off tubeless tyres before. Okay. Humble brag. Well, they are hard to get off, but that wasn't the point that I was making. So I've replaced my tubeless tyres, okay? Yeah. And when I've done it, I've not had punctures, but I've found sharp thorns and objects inside the tyre that it's sealed, that were still in there. And then you open it up and there's all these weapons pointing through on the inside of the tyre, right? It's true. So that could have happened to your tyres. You don't know because it's sealed, and then you just pump up your inner tube, bang, it goes straight away because there's sharp objects in there. What about the object that caused the actual puncture that failed to seal? That could still be in there. If the hole, I was thinking about that, if the hole's big enough
that it wouldn't seal with a plug or sealant, it's unlikely to still have something wedged in there, because it'd be there like sealant spurting out. So that one, I think you'd be all right.
So if you're using a plug as well, if it's one of the ones that's got like a brass head, then that's a little sharp thing that's probably going to damage an inner tube as well. So you'd have to make sure you've taken that out if you've already tried to plug it. Which in a race situation when you might not be thinking straight, you might just be in a bit of a rush. And the other thing is that you have to drill your wheels, which when you're racing them on gravel...
Definitely a pro-only hack, that one. Can I say, very geeky, but the one that I saw before was in downhill mountain biking years and years ago, and it was in the early days of tubeless, where riders were struggling to keep tyres on rims, I think, and it was a Schwalbe product, and it was basically like a mini inner tube that inflated in the bed of the rim, and then it made sure that the bead of the tyre was completely locked in to the... and then it effectively acted as like a cush core type thing, like a rim strip. But it was one that was inflatable, and it meant that you could deflate it and then get the tyre off easily. Because that is the one issue with a rim strip. 100% I would run it all the time, were it not for the fact that they're just a little bit harder to get off, and I wouldn't want to get stuck at the side of the road.
So if you were doing Unbound, would you do like internal tyre liners?
Well, not a tyre liner, I do a rim strip, so the ones that like change the way the tyre feels to ride, and then if you hit like big objects, like effectively helps prevent a pinch flat.
Right.
100% I would, except for the fact that if you get a puncture that the sealant won't seal, I too can get a tubeless tyre off a rim. But
well,
I do struggle.
You reckon you can do it with no tyre levers?
I can.
I think we need to make a video of this because
I may look
I'm
like
going to give
a weak, puny individual, but my thumbs...
You can't do a pull-up.
I don't do pull-ups with my thumbs.
Maybe you should. This is ridiculous.
No, anyway, but yeah, that's my issue with tyre like rim strips, is that they just make it really hard to pop the tyre off.
Yeah.
But, Lloydie was using them at the Gralloch.
Yeah.
On recommendation from GCN Tech's
He did pretty well.
He did, yeah. Oh, there's a lizard over there.
Oh, there is.
Makes a change from a guy sweeping up leaves, doesn't it?
It looks safe.
Yeah, safe lizard. Right.
Turbo Trainer Tech.
Oh yeah.
What have Elite done?
So, well, it's really cool actually. So Elite have been making smart trainers for a while now. The Zwift Cog is a relatively recent innovation that loads and loads of people are jumping on, but it needs the firmware of trainers to accept it, basically, to be modified. Some training companies aren't retrofitting or retro-modding their old trainers to be able to fit the Zwift Cog.
Right.
But Elite have just gone back and done exactly that on their older smart trainers. So, as far as I'm aware, the Elite Diretto, the Suito, and there was one other, will now update so that you can run a Zwift Cog on there, which is cool.
Zwift Cog's cool. I mean, it's just anything for an easy life. It just makes life simple when you put your bike on a turbo trainer.
It does indeed, yeah. Or multiple bikes on a turbo trainer, particularly. So, yeah, that's cool. Shout out to Elite for doing that.
Yeah. I think, just if you want more gravel, Unbound Tech, just make sure you check out Alex's video. It's now time for comments of the week. Comments you've been leaving under videos on the Tech channel over the last week. So, first one is from Peter Dobos, 1606, who says, some marginal gains are more marginal. And how very Orwellian of you. He was referring to last week's Tech show where we were discussing marginal gains and got Josh Portner from Silka to rank them in order of efficacy.
What was the most efficient?
Well, I think the clothing is probably the top one. Aero socks and a tight-fitting aero clothing. It's like the best thing.
There you go.
Yeah.
Not disc wheels on gravel.
Yeah, I knew I'd get you around to aero socks eventually.
To be fair, yeah, I did wear them at the Fred, didn't I? Yeah, I did, yeah. Right, next up, we got this one from Mr. A. Bear, or Mr. Aber. My rule of thumb for gains is if my wife will notice the change on her bike, it is not marginal. For that, quality tyres and a clean bike are the two things she absolutely notices. She also appreciates her waxed chain, not for speed, but so she doesn't have to worry about her chain making her legs dirty. So yeah, that's cool, that.
Yeah, got 60 likes, that comment. Good one. The next comment is from our Fred Whitten tech video that I did of the equipment and stuff that I use for that. And Jacob Golan said, I found it a bit funny that Ollie optimises the number of bits in his toolkit, but then packs 3 different kinds of inflators. So just to be clear, I didn't do 3 kinds of inflators. I had plugs. That's not a source of inflation. It's just and then I had my mini pump as like a last resort thing, and then I just had a CO2 cartridge as well. But quite a few people also commented saying that, like, you can't use CO2 when you're using tubeless. And
you can.
You can.
Yeah.
What it does is if the puncture is sealed, then you inflate it with CO2. You can, but the CO2 can freeze the sealant, but it will thaw out again.
There you go.
You're right.
What did you do with your giant pliers? Where did they go?
Giant pliers?
Well, so because in the video we did a short, didn't we, on where it was how to plug your tyre at the roadside using the Topeak tubeless plug kit. And it was a very neat job. The tyre was plugged, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, this giant pair of Park Tool pliers appeared and snipped the end off the tubeless plug. And to which a lot of people in the comments were like, well, why are you carrying a giant pair of snips with you on a ride? And so I was wondering where yours were on the Fred.
Oh no, I didn't have them. I wouldn't have used the pliers on that. I think that was just that was other library footage that was cut in and misrepresented me in that video.
I was having a little chuckle with Dan about that last night. Anyway, moving on. Under the Unbound Tech vid, ex-great NW Comics said, it's the 90s all over again. Starts the rigid fork, goes to shocks. Plain parts gets anodised, and next we'll see full suspension gravel bikes. Well, I think we will see full suspension gravel bikes.
Yeah, I like the comment about the anodised thing, though, because I remember that when I was a kid, that, like, anodised everything was, like, the coolest thing, right? Like, all of it, like, brake levers, like, little bits all over your mountain bike. Like, that was all, like, that was, like, the coolest thing. That's what everyone wanted. And now we're starting to see loads more of that in, like, you start seeing road cycling bits as well. Alex loves anodised stuff as well.
Yeah. I think we need to be careful, though, about getting on about retro mountain bikes too much, because it ages a person, doesn't it? Like, when you think about how many people are alive currently that were not in existence in the 90s, let alone riding mountain bikes, you suddenly think, like, well, actually, like, this is evolution all over again.
Yes.
It's just that it's going to be quicker because we benefit from all of what's gone on in cycling history over the past.
Yeah.
But 100% full suspension gravel bikes would be a thing.
Yeah.
You mark my words.
We should probably hold on to our flares, because they'll come back around. No, we're not that old. Anyway, cool. Right, bike vault time. Oh, I haven't got the bell. We're gonna. Oh
no!
I always forget to bring the bell when we go on tour. Do you know what? We'll just have to get like the guys back home to edit the bell sound in.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Yeah, or some other sound.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds like a challenge.
Yeah.
Right. Cool. Go on then. Let's start.
So first up, we've got Matthew Wilcott, who has a 29er frame from Mark Slate, who's the WTB founder.
Nice.
It's a titanium 29er frame. So White Industries hubs and Big Max's tyres on there. SRAM E-tap shifting on there. What do you make of that?
I mean, I think that's very, very cool.
It is, isn't it?
Like, it's interesting to note how much mountain bike geometry has changed, Ollie, over the years.
Out on that.
Yeah, and actually, like, you can't stick drop handlebars on modern mountain bikes because it feels horrendous. But that one, you could.
Yeah?
Because the head angle is nice and steep. Like, it wouldn't feel too awful. But I very much appreciate the rise bars on there. I think it looks cool.
Yeah, gold chain on there as well.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Speaking of anodised parts, there's some nice little anodised details on that as well.
Yeah, it's super nice.
It is super nice, isn't it, that?
Yeah. amazing. Oh, and the chain's waxed as well.
Oh, bonus.
Right then, Niran sent this one in, which is a custom iWater cycle Black Shadow, which looks very cool indeed. One of a kind, built by iWater bicycles to accommodate my asymmetric body shape. That's interesting, isn't it?
It's intriguing, but it also sounds super cool.
Yeah, so, but I mean, built up with a wish list spec, isn't it?
Wow,
With SRAM, Red Axis Explore. Although...
MV3.4's on there
What's
as well.
this bit? The right side of the handlebar features a Shimano GRX front brake, which is controllable from both the hood levers and an interrupter on the handlebars. That's cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Super cool.
That's a really cool modification.
Yeah. And then the SRAM 1-bar Explorer has a left single-hand shifting paddle and blip.
I mean, that's really cool.
Yeah, really cool. Hang on a sec. I'm just trying to get my head around that.
Having to, like, zoom in a bit there.
Yeah, sorry. What? Yeah, no, I mean, that's wicked. I love
I know you're quite old and a bit older than me, but you can just zoom in on the screen.
But if I zoom in too much on the screen, then I lose most of it. Oh, God. There's, like, lights bouncing off the laptop screen. Right, I'm saying that's a super nice.
Yeah, it is a super nice.
Anyone that tricks out their bike and specs it to work for them that much, I think gets super nice.
That is proper cool.
Yeah.
The next one is from... Who's this one? This one is from Will Keys. And it is a gravel bike. And they say that they've built this... parts. They had a bike that was hit by a car and destroyed, and then they've used bits and built it back up. And it's a twin 6 rando. What do you make of that?
That's a nice looking bike, isn't it? I like the fact that the subtle colour matching of the bar tape to the frame.
Yeah, that is cool, isn't it?
That's a nice little tweak,
isn't it? That is cool. We've had a good week this week so far. I really like this one as well.
Yeah.
It's well presented, smart, and I love that it's something positive that's been born out of a bad experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I sense you're super nice in this one.
Yeah, that's a super nice.
Another super nice, all right. And then...
We've got a Cervelo S5 Sunweb replica from Race Phase.
Whoa, nice. Team replica built from used parts only. That's the only detail we've got on it. But what are we thinking?
Well, I like that the Dura Ace wheels are period correct for Sunweb. Because they're tubular, and they're the older tubular ones with the older graphics of just sort of 5 years ago.
Yeah. They were good. That was a good vintage of Giro Ace wheel. Those graphics are mega, aren't they?
They do look smart, don't they?
Super cool. And it's a lovely bike, and to build it up out of used parts only, high fives all round for that one, I think.
Yeah, that's proper smart, isn't it, that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super nice?
Yeah.
Oh, my word. Right, is this going to be a full house?
Well,
is this
we'll
the
see.
last one?
Next one is Drassier 007.
Ooh, nice. A Tex Mercs. See what you've done there. Very cool.
Yeah.
90s Corsa Campi Centaur 10-speed Ambrosio wheels, Vittoria Corsa control, 30mm tyres, 25 pounds of joy. That is a cool bike,
It's cool, isn't it? It's quite interesting that they've sort of gone, with like the 30mm tyres in there. I'm amazed that they've got them to fit. The clearance looks super tight up against the seat tube there.
I'm all for that.
Yeah,
It's nothing
cool,
like
isn't it?
squeezing a fat tyre in a skinny bike.
But like, that's the other thing. It's like, imagine how Sorry. Imagine how comfortable that would be to ride with those big tyres in it.
Yeah, big tyres, steel frame. That is super duper cool, isn't it?
It is what that is like. Yeah, that is. I mean, I love old bikes. I love the Campy chain set.
Yeah.
Chain sets like that, they do it for me.
And those Campy shifters, they were the first generations, weren't they, to get rid of exposed shifters, exposed cables out of the shifters. And,
that is a very, very nice bike. I think that's easier, super nice.
I think it's super nice as well.
We've had a clean sweep.
Oh my word!
Do you think it's because we're in a good mood, because we're on tour and we're in the sunshine in the south of France?
Well, there is that, but you insist on saying that it's still 5 a.m. So that's.
I mean, I might not look it, but I am a morning person. Right,
there we go.
Should we go get some breakfast?
Yes, yeah, I will allow you that. We have done the show before breakfast. Yeah, I'm in need of a coffee as well. And then we're going to go ride our bicycles, aren't we?
Yeah, hopefully. Right, gonna go now. Love
See ya.
you. Bye.